Hello guys, what's up? This is Cher talking. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be giving a review to the Halloween banner. This banner here has now a global exclusive to shake things up. Many people were thinking about just skipping because they had debuffers or blunt damage dealers, and Cat and Azami don't bring that much utility to those people. But now we have SS Princess White Rose, Global X version, based on a skin from JP. She's now very good. But she also very gimmick. You have to understand if you want to play with her gameplay mechanics, or, well, if you want to wait for another character that can do similar. But I do believe that she's the best of the bunch. There's also S Asellus and Jo, but they are only for inheritance, and only Asellus matter, and not even that much. Well, by giving a look here, let's start with Princess White Rose. And as you can see, she's a character that has intelligence and will, but does not have agility as a bonus. She's focused on doing damage, but also on resisting damage. This Princess White Rose is a must-have for those that skipped the Valentine Edition or just started the game recently and don't have that one. The Valentine Edition was this one here that is still relevant in the game because, well, she has one of the best agility debuffs, only losing to Bune. She has the best single target heal because it can cleanse, and she also heals herself on start of fight with chances, and her healing is the best one in the game. Now what we have is this version of Princess White Rose that lacks the heal skill, but can do damage, can debuff with the same chocolate ball, and also cleanse and buff the defensive status of the squad. This seems very interesting, right? And even better because we have in global this style that you can acquire from Robin Cup that has Ray of Hope. That is the skill that we use with the Valentine Edition. So that means that Halloween now has everything that the Valentine has, and it's better. So if you already have Valentine and use it a lot of time, you may want to get this one because it's an upgraded version. Not just an upgraded, but can do something different, not just status buffs. Well, let's give a look on her status before we understand how she works. As you can see, she has very much intelligence and will. Those two status are her most important ones, and then love. Well, her love is very high, but I don't think it beats the Valentine Edition. Valentine Edition has a stupidly high love. You don't need that much, of course. So SCR is low, could be even lower, so we could get more usage for the status. She has 50 dexterity, I don't know why, because she only used this for normal attack. Her endurance is pretty low, but it's like all healers, they don't have much. Her intelligence on 85 does not beat the attacking version. Actually, it beats. This one has 83 and 15, and this one has 85 and 16. It even has a passive that increases damage further, so it's the definitive version of Princess White Rose considering everything. If you have this one, you can inherit at least Sacred Blasted Guardian or ScherBR. They are very good attacks for different cycles. Blasted Guardian can debuff will and makes sense with her kit. Okay, returning to the Halloween edition, as you can see, the charisma is even high as well. The agility is 75, I don't know if it beats this one. Well, it even beats. As you can see, this is the definitive version. So, let's understand how she works by giving a look, first of all, on her abilities. The first one here is your Pumpkin. It has a different name because it's exclusive, no one else has this. When she is attacked, and attacked means any type of damage. It can be direct, indirect, single target, AoE, she will trigger this. In all time, there's no chance, it's all time. She will increase all surviving allies' will by 10%. Well, if you are using a magical setup, it means that your characters already have high will. If your enemy keeps attacking with AoE, you will get this triggered many times. And by some time you will reach 0 damage, depending on your boss. You reach 0 damage from spells, because will is used to decrease damage from spells. But that takes time, a lot of time to reach that point. But it at least helps decrease the damage from start, and also will help you negate or at least avoid status ailments. Kazinsi fight right now is one hell of a fight because Kazinsi has insane intelligence and even agility, allowing him to inflict status ailments on you all the time. Will she help negate that? No, I don't think she will help negate that unless the fight keeps for too long, but she will decrease the chances and use it alongside a formation that also increases will, and also equipments that decreases the chance of being inflicted with ailments, means that you'll probably be safe. And this is her main gameplay for boss fights from now on, while she still keeps Chocolate Ball to help. But increasing your will, it's very important in the future when we have more challenge stages like Tower, there are some content where this will help a lot, especially against many enemies. Against many enemies, and if they attack many times, like the challenge we have with the stars from Romancing Saga 3, they attack many times. You keep buffing your will. In that case, not so helpful because they also attack with physical. Well, buffing your will not decrease the physical damage. So she's made for boss fights that uses a spell. Okay, this is very interesting, very unique, and is her main gameplay that adds into the past versions. Then we have Energize, Int and Will. She stole this from UDX Dev 2.0. She gets Intelligence and Will on every turn. Yes, by 10%, so it will keep stacking, and it's pretty interesting because eventually it allows her to never miss Chocolate Ball. If you remember, or if you play her Valentine version, some recent bosses were sometimes, well, evading Chocolate Ball, and the reason why they evade Chocolate Ball is because Valentine's edition is very old. She has very bad agility, and agility is also taken into consideration when calculating the accuracy for spells. It's a mix of agility and intelligence. Her intelligence is not so high, so what happens is that she lacks status to keep hitting the enemies. Now this version will fix that by having higher status but also increasing it every new turn, allowing her to never miss her Chocolate Ball and debuffing the agility. This already fixed the problem and also makes her stronger. She's not just about the buffing, she also deals damage. That's very important. Like I said, she can even top the mage version of White Rose for more damage, and she can keep getting more damage as long as the fight continues. Returning that, we have Overtension. This is very nice because we use this in boss fights, and in boss fights we always use Overdrive. Sometimes we finish a boss with Overdrive, and getting more damage on Overdrive with a character that keeps buffing itself is very nice. Overtension is 15% on all times, 30% on combo, and 45% on Overdrive. So in the end, she has only 15% for damage at all times, but Energize will always trigger on the start of a turn, so a buff in 15%. Let's compare this to the mage version. The mage version also has an intelligence buff on start, but well, her version increases 15. She also has Hardy Wallop, that is 15 as well, and fired up 4. Yeah, she does have a lot. Yes, 15% buff to intelligence, 15% on full HP for damage. Yes, 30% increase in damage and an intelligence buff. That may allow her to do a little more damage than our current version, but like I said, she just keeps getting stronger in boss fights, and it will eventually just become the best version. Also, because her first skill is AoE, by inheriting Sacred Garden, Blasted Garden, she just keeps doing AoE. But the problem is that she cannot do it 3 times in a row. Blasted Garden uses 9, so on turn 3 you don't have enough BP for Chocolate Ball again. You have to skip 1 turn. But that's good enough. Well, like I was saying to this point, she has Chocolate Ball. The skill here is the same attack as Light Ball, but with this added effect of the buffing agility. I mean, the damage is the same as Light Ball. For BP, it's not the best agility debuff we have in the game. We also have Bunny that uses that with Aerodyne, and she only uses 3, meaning that Bunny never runs out of BP. But the second best thing in the game is still Princess White Rose, and she now has this with a better style that will just allow her to never miss the debuff. Bunny never misses because her intelligence is very high. Then the second skill is called Photosphere Shot. As you can see, it's a damaging skill. We don't know the multiplier, it's B. For B, we want to use 5 VP, and that's exactly what happens here. I don't know how much we have as modifier. It can be close to Masamune, I don't know, from Apollo. It's very interesting because they kind of can share the same spot or be used together. Because Apollo is also very useful against boss fights that uses spells, since his will is very high and he keeps getting more. Photosphere Shot is, as you can see here, an attack, only some damage, and debuffs endurance and will. So even in boss fights that she's not contributing to the reduce damage because they are doing physical, she can at least help your attackers to do more damage by debuffing the endurance of your enemy. Not every boss has high endurance or even will to take advantage of this, but it's still a plus when she's doing damage, or maybe when you are using her on Overdrive, she may help increase the damage on the next turn. Maybe use this before Overdrive so all your characters can do more on the next turn. And well, debuffing endurance and will means that you are debuffing the 2 types of resistance for the whole squad to use on the next turn. And also debuffing will allow you to inflict status ailments. That is when we can inflict status ailments in a boss fight. It's hardly a thing. And the last skill is her most unique one, Princess Pumpkin Party. This one here is, well, supportive because it does not do damage. It will cleanse you from all status ailments. All status ailments will be removed, and she will buff 4 different status: Endurance, Will, Love, and Charisma. The cost is very similar to, well, Nawal's Daughter, but Nawal's Daughter buffs all status. Nawal's Daughter will still beat her when buffing everything, because she will buff also the damage part, like Agility, Intelligence, STR, Dexterity. She's only buffing the defensive part, and with 8 BP, I think this is a little too much. Sorry, but yes, if you want to use her in combat, you probably want her to increase will by her passive. Remember, here's your pumpkin. It will increase your will, allowing you to not receive status ailments. But maybe as a desperate measure, you can use Princess Pumpkin Party to remove that confusion or that charm that will, well, maybe kill you in the long term. But the cost is too high. It's hard to have 8 BP because you're probably using Chocolate Ball or Photosphere Shot before Overdrive. I don't know how you can store this much of BP. Maybe if it's a boss fight where they try to inflict confusion or paralyze or something nasty right on start, and you can try to cleanse that in the second turn, maybe. That may make more sense. But you will need another one to debuff Agility or other status here. Still, Princess White Rose has a very unique design. She does not clash with the future version that will be released. People call her Blue Princess Rose because she's blue, and she helps the squad by healing with a chance, but the healing is very poor. It's only around 100, and she also has some damage spells. They are not that interesting. She still keeps the healing and a damage attack. That's a nuke with double S that can recover her own HP. As you can see, this version will not heal in battle by chance, so you may need a secondary healer to sometimes heal. If you're using her with Mirza, it makes a lot of sense, especially if you're also bringing Nawal's Daughter and you want to sometimes buff double status. But come with a cost that it does not buff the offensive part. Still, I believe that she has the longest longevity of them all because I can see myself using her in boss fights, and she may reduce the damage to 0 if it's a magical attack. And when she's not reducing damage, she's doing something like debuffing or cleansing or healing. A very powerful character that will still be relevant from time to come. But then that's Princess White Rose. If I were to say she is better than the past one, the Valentine and even the Major Edition, and she is very close to a Triple S tier, in my opinion, it's like the first one, or getting very close to a Triple S tier, but because she's not exactly needed, this type of gameplay will only show up in the future. We'll be thinking about and testing her to see if we decide to give her the best tier here. Is she skippable? Well, yeah. Do you have Valentine Edition? You can skip her technically if you don't have the gems. You don't have the Valentine Edition, summon on this one. It even gets a better value if you don't have the value edition because you are just getting this one. And now you don't have anything good by having the Valentine Edition. Nothing here is important. Mega Wind Blast not important. Chocolate Ball is already here, and Ray of Hope can be inherited by the S style from Robin Cup. So don't have Valentine, summon for this one. If you have, well, depends on your gens and how you defeat bosses. If you are having difficulty, she will help, but depends on your gens. Okay, so now let's get to the second style. That should be Cat. Cat is also interesting because she's a debuffer, but we got so many debuffers in the game that you may be thinking, do I really need Cat? If you know, this version of Cat was a very good debuffer for some time, but, well, premium units just dethroned her fast. She could debuff 2 things, STR and Agility, and not many characters can do that, debuff 2 things on the same time. And then we have the Halloween Edition that tries to improve on that and debuffing more important status even, against different type of bosses, of course. Sometimes you face a boss that can do physical and magical damage, like Kazinsi, for example. And you need someone to debuff the 2 things, or, well, 2 different styles in the battlefield. This Cat can debuff both STR and Intelligence, and she can do this very well. There is some problems with this design still. I do think that there are some problems. She was changed for global. But before, let's give a look on the status. She has 96 for agility, that's pretty nice. Her STR is pretty bad on 80s for the martial arts, but it's not the most important status. We want agility so we can evade. Even though we still use STR for damage. Her intelligence is 75, it's good enough for a martial artist and for any type of debuff. She even competes with GLEX Emilia for agility debuff, and they have similar status. She will still be relevant. The problem is if your character has 50% in intelligence. That is a point that right now it does not help keep debuffing. You will need someone to buff the intelligence before you can just guarantee that you will never miss. But Cat will never miss unless the enemy has very, very high will. Okay, so that is in level 50, okay? And cap it. So, with intelligence, agility, her resistance is not so good. As you can see, endurance is only 34, very bad endurance. And will is on 61, very average. She doesn't have good resistance. She is not to be placed on the front line. But in the end, it seems like she was made to be used on the front line. But how do you use her? I remember also Peony, another fairy from the game that could just be used in the front line. She had a terrible endurance, and then we wanted to use that to evade encounter. Now this cat wants to do that. She wants to stay on the front line, but she does not have the status for that. Why? This passive here called Rose Gold Pussy Willow. This one here is the one that got changed for global. She has a 25% chance to evade only direct attacks. Remember, if your boss has many indirect attacks, sometimes it may be suicidal to place her on the front line. She would just receive full damage instead of being protected in the back. And 25% chance is very risky. She will at least counterattack with Cat Claw, and that is the same passive as Human Female. Yes, Cat Claw is this first skill that she can use as well. They end up being a free skill. Why? Because you use 3 BP to Cat Claw, and she recovers 3 BP with Cat Claw. But when it's used as a counter, you don't use the BP. So you are essentially getting 3 BP to just keep using other skills. That's the same case with Human Female, and we will be giving a look on Human Female because they kind of compete sometimes for this lot. Human Female will never debuff. That is a thing. But maybe you want more damage, like you can use Ace in the Glass or Stone Plus after you got some... It's the same name even of the passive. After you regained some BP, but it's still a risk. People use her even now in JP. But I don't believe that this is like, well, a must-have thing. You can just survive without using this. And then, this is the most important thing that got changed in Global. If you get her to counter, you get BP, but if you don't, well, this first passive is not that important because she will not be placed on the front. Even without using this, she's still good because of Enervate 4 for STR and Intelligence. That is essentially 25% chance to debuff both STR and Intelligence, but it's a different chance. You can just debuff 1 or 2 or neither, depending on your luck. The debuff value is 20%, so at least the debuff value is good since the small value of submission or any other debuff gets up to 15. It's a little better, but still is 25% chance. Do you want to play with RNG when you are debuffing? I don't think I want. Sometimes you want to use someone that can debuff with a full chance, like there's Doll. If your enemy uses more physical attack, Doll can just debuff STR, albeit with 5 VP. She will always debuff STR. Barthélemy can always debuff now because he's high intelligence. So when you are using Cat, you do have a chance of failing, but very low, unless the enemy has very high will. And then you have to rely on RNG, at least for the passives. Then let's give a look on the skills. Cat's Claw, like I said, is actually a cheap attack to use that just recovers the BP that you just used, meaning that you're just getting more damage for free. Then there's Feline Dance. This one here is the most important attack from her. It's just a debuff to both STR and Intelligence, 15% on since the start. I don't think that you need to level this up. And well, if your enemy uses both physical and magical, using this from start will help you. It's not something extraordinary, like you say GLEX Emilia that can debuff more than 40% for agility, but still helps depending on your enemy. But debuffing the two things on start. Then we have Cat Rhapsody. This is a nuke attack, but it's 13 BP, it's very costly, it's not even 12. But triple S, both blunt and slash. You should be using this either for firing, but she's not a best damage dealer, she doesn't have a single passive for damage. I believe that people will be using this on overdrive, just to try to kill a boss, but you hardly will have that much BP unless you're using her on the front line and getting more BP by the first passive. Yeah, that's what happens here. Feline Dance is a very nice skill and you'll be using it more than just submission, unless the enemy does not have any spell or don't need intelligence. You can inherit submission from the standard platinum version that deals B damage, 27 modifiers, very close to 8. It's a strong attack, but she doesn't have any damage passive. You're just trying to debuff. That means if you want some damage. I don't think you need that, so if you're using her, you're using for the two things together, STR and intelligence. If you just want STR, you have better debuffers. If you want intelligence, you have better debuffers. We have global exclusive Rock Bouquet, we have Barthélemy, like I said, and Doll for STR, and even Ren if you have multiple targets. Cat is only useful if you need to debuff two things, and even then you still have to rely a little on RNG. That's why I don't think that this version of Cat is so important. You can skip her if you had the other debuffers I just mentioned in here. For someone that's starting the game and don't have the other ones, it may give you some value since you can just debuff the two offensive status in the game with her, but you may need some RNG to keep the fight going. I don't think that Cat is all that important, okay? So now it's time to get to Azami. Azami is now a little better in global, but still nothing so extraordinary. What we have here is a buff on agility. She has now 100%, that's even higher than Red. Red has 99. She has 70 as bonus, 17. And STR has 91 with 11 as bonus. Well, her STR is not that high, but it's good enough. But another thing here is the endurance is pretty bad, but she does have some will. Interesting because, well, maybe if you are using Rapid String and using evasion strategies, it will help her survive magical attacks, but not against, well, physical ones. And she's totally based on that. She does have 54 intelligence. She can still inherit submission from her Christmas or summer style if you want. Well, she does have some good damage and could be used, but depends on your boss. 51 is not that high as intelligence. She may be missing submission from now and then. And besides that, nothing else is important. She does not use Dex. For passives, the first one is Rejuvenate, STR and Agility. It increases her own STR and Agility, but with a chance. It increases by 20%, but it has a 25% chance of triggering. Eventually, you don't have that much. Comparing to this new version of Princess White Rose, she gets 2 status every single turn. At least it's 10%, but it's 2 every turn, and you can stack. While when you were doing this with Azami, you depend on RNG for only 20%. Well, it's a 5% on average activated. Very, very bad. For current standards, characters will be getting buffs that trigger every time instead of this thing. This is an old design. Then the second one is Robust Tension. It was buffed in global. She only got damage on full HP. Now she gets even further. Damage increases all time by 15, and when on full HP, she now increases 10% more. So 15 all times, but 25 on full HP. That's good enough because she also has Fired Up 5 that increases by 20% more. What do we have? 35 at all times, or 35 or 45 depending on full HP or not. It's compared to a lot of nukers we have in the game. She isn't trying to be a nuker again, but she has 2 skills for AoE. That's interesting because one of them is very cheap. Hail of Candy is a E attack, as you can see here, with 3 BP. She can use this all the time. I don't know how many formations that make her so good for this. I think that Sigmoid makes sense because it increases 25% for STR and Agility. You can also use her on Rainbow Rangers in this slot for Agility if you miss it Red. If you don't have Red, it makes sense to get Azami. She is not as good, she does not have the best cyclings, but at least for AoE she works pretty fine. And having AoE in Agility position is always good. This attack is cheap, okay, can be used also for weekly content, just fine. Then the second one is Little Witches, and this one is C damage, and it gives also AoE damage. But now it has something new in global. It increases her agility by up to 15% on level 99. This is good, why? I can already see myself using if I get this Azami. When we are facing multiple bosses. It's not all the time, but if you're facing multiple bosses and you're trying to evade using either agility debuff or agility buff strategies, you can keep getting more agility to eventually reach evasion faster. That is the same thing that Red does, but Red does for single target. Red is better because he uses 3 BP only, meaning that he can buff all the time. She uses 6 BP for this skill, meaning that it's better for multiple targets, and she has a downside of only being able to use that once every 2 turns. So while it's good, has a low cost, it has some downside if you wanted to use that to evade. Then the last skill is Trick Pumpkin. As you can see, 10 BP. This one is good, and it's triple S damage with 58 modifier. It's not the best triple S attack we have in the game, but on 10 BP you cannot complain too much. Mirza does more damage and also has a higher modifier, but at least she can do a lot if she has full HP, so all of her damage passives are activated. And it's only blunt. The bad thing about Azami is being released after so many good blunt damage dealers. We got full damage dealers, we also got like Fodder that can also be a tank, and now Azami is just straight out damage with a chance to, well, reach evasion by the second skill, but only against multiple targets, and with the downside of not being able to fire this skill all the time. So I think that she's the easiest one to just get outclassed easily. Right now, other blunt damage dealers will do more damage. If you have Commando Emilia, if you have Fodder, you have more utility. I think she beats T260G on the AoE department. Well, T260G is also good for counter, but does not even come close against Azami damage. We also had Tatiana and Summer, Global X, Elizabeth, and they offer more volley, although I don't know, they are very similar in the end. They are just characters. At least Summer and Elizabeth can buff the squad, while Azami and Tatiana are more straight out damage dealers and, well, easily to be outclassed. So that's it, we got the review of all these 3. Like I said, Azami is only for those that missed many blunt damage dealers in the past. Cat does have some usage, but only for those that don't have dedicated specialists for debuffs. But now, we also have to talk about Asellus. She has an inheritance here with this S style. That is this attack called Nightcrawl. Nightcrawl is very similar to the second skill from the Global X Final Emperor. She will attack 2 times with 6 BP. This is way better than you think. It's only E and Final Emperor is D. It's a little above this, but she will give increased damage against humans. So if you have the current best Asellus that is this one, you can get some good damage by inheritance. But we'll be getting a future version of Asellus that's way better for damage than this one, and it's okay important. You do have other options for a nuke with this future Asellus that can be better, but depends on the situation. If you're doing critical damage against human, this one is pretty nice. Monsoon Slash is an attack that deals fast and can be upgraded to A. It's stronger than Heaven's Inert, but Heaven Inert gets an upgrade in the future that becomes even better, so this is not something that you may want. Rising Nova gets an upgrade in JP. As you can see right now, it's only S damage. It gets up to double S, gets increasement in damage. It will only be useful for those that lack heat damage. For Slash, we have way more opinions, characters that do way more damage. So in the end, the first skill and the last one may be useful, but more about the first one, in my opinion, depending if you want to pursue the next Asellus, but you still don't need to. If you got the characters that you want, you may skip and just be happy. The other style that it's also on this banner is Jo. Jo has a style, but it should be easy to get, but it does not offer anything good. We have J Turn that deals enough damage for a 3 BP skill, being C, but you hardly need this. She gets a free skill in the future for both cold and heat, that uses 0 BP. Then there is Aqua Viper, it's a roll attack with 7 BP, it's very old and weak. And Requiem of Fire is a damage to column of foes with 10 BP. I don't think this is good enough, and there's no reason to exist. With that, I can say that you can skip Jo easily. That being said, let's return to the banner image. What do I think about this banner? I think that this banner is passable besides Princess White Rose. The only character that matters for long-time players is Princess White Rose. If you miss it, I don't know how many of the STR or intelligence buffers, then Cat can be a good thing for you, but she plays with RNG. If you don't like playing with RNG, this may not be for you. And Azami is just another blend damage dealer that at least can help more by being on the agility position. If you miss it, the current ones like Father, like Human Female, or some of the other ones, if you missed Red on his return banner as well. But I do believe that they will be releasing a future Halloween banner part 2 that may have Ray and Mercedes. Those two styles are dark and cold damage. I think they may offer more than this one. If you want to wait, you can wait 1 week. We'll probably see some information about the next banner. But Princess White Rose, again, is the best one of this bench. And I do believe that she will be used forever. Don't have Valentine Princess White Rose summon this one. You will want, and you can thank me later, if you care about boss fights or hard challenges. If you don't, you can even skip it, doesn't change too much. She's not exactly a character used for farming, but, well, we got a lot of sun damage dealer in the game recently. You will not be missing sun damage if you don't care about hard challenges. But if you do care, and if you are expecting a new content like the tower, she will change some fights. She will make some fights that were harder for JP players, easier for global players. Some people were saying that Apollo was used in a stage where he could decrease magical damage because he's just so tanky. But now Princess White Rose can be used instead. And not just that, she offers way more. She can buff, she can heal, she can do so many stuff. She is, like I was saying, almost a triple S tier in my regard. Can even reach triple S depending on how we use her and see the final value. Right now, I do believe that she's one of the best styles in the game. But, well, she's also gimmicky depending if you want to increase will to your party. You need to get hit. Who wants to get hit? Well, it happens. If you have buffers or debuffers together, at least the damage won't be that high, and eventually you will reach very small damage and survive better by using this version of Princess White Rose. So that's it, my friends. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it helped you decide if you want to summon or not. Hope you get the characters that you want. I'll be live streaming this game as soon as it goes live. Thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel, there are links in the description of the video. We see each other on the next one. Bye.